Destiny 2 Season of the Splicer is coming to a close. We have a week left until the next season. And with that being said, I want to share my thoughts on what I think of this season overall. Now that we've pretty much experienced everything, unless they throw a huge surprise at the very last week of this season, which I don't see that happening. So pretty much I'm going to just say that nothing else is going to happen. So this is it. So I want to share my thoughts on Season of the Splicer, and of course, whenever we do these videos, I want to know your thoughts as well. What do you think of Season of the Splicer? What do you like? What do you dislike? What do you think Bungie could have done better? Just overall, what do you think? For me, I came into this season with low expectations because it was a mid-season. What do I mean by this? Well, in the format of the seasonal format in Destiny 2 now, I consider there being 3 seasons. I know there's technically 4 because there's one that's also tied to the expansion, but I kind of combine those two in a way. But the reason why is because, like I said, the mid-seasons are kind of different. Like, I have low expectations with them, but why? So, like, if you look at Black Armory and Season of Opulence, and then you'll look at Season of the Drifter. Season of the Drifter didn't have a raid compared to the 2. It was a little bit less. It was focused on Gambit. It was not, like, crazy big compared to, like, Black Armory or Opulence. Same thing going with Season of Dawn and Season of Rivals compared to Season of Worthy. Season of Worthy was a little bit more lacking in content compared to the other 2. So I was kind of expecting the same with Season of Splicer. I was shockingly surprised that it wasn't that case. Not entirely. I'll go into why I don't like the season here and there, but there's a lot of things that I did like. For example, the story. Very, very good. I think that's one of the things that I really like about the new seasonal format is that instead of there being a story that's more tied to like the launch of the season and moving on to the next one, it's just a growing story week by week in a way that leads to something in the middle of the season to the end. Like things like that I really like what they did with like Season of the Chosen and now with Season of the Splicer. Granted though, one of the things that I don't like about with, like, for example, with Season of the Splicer is when there's a random halt in the story and you have to wait a decent amount of weeks until, like, for example, the epilogue that happened with this one. I feel like that's one thing that I don't like, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal because still, story is story. It's pretty good with what it's going for. When it comes to the epilogue, though, it was great, but kind of disappointing that it was something that you went through in 30 minutes and then you were done. I really wish that at least that they did a last 2 weeks kind of event with the new override that they have now, where maybe you get like double rewards, double everything. Like they just go nuts on the amount of rewards, but you can only experience it for that last 2 weeks to get that amount of rewards. So there'd be a big reason to keep playing the override over and over rather than just you're doing override for like the usual that you've been doing, but now in like a different environment. Like, I wish that they at least did that, but other than that, like, the cutscene, the story, all that stuff was great. The weapons were pretty good. I liked the weapons that they had for this season. The exotic weapon was actually pretty fun. It wasn't anything, like, super OP that we were all at first worried about, because it was going to be a stasis exotic. Yes, I know that there's certain things about it that makes it pretty crazy, but, again, it wasn't as, like, unbalanced that maybe some of us were assuming it would be. The Expunge missions were actually a very nice touch as well. We have Override, and then we have these Expunge missions that were very interesting. They each had their own environment and objectives. It was cool. And then you had the endgame version, where it was just basically the same thing, just with Taken all over the place. And you could grind it with the Expunge keys, things, whatever, to get like high stat armor and double perk weapons, which, as usual, which I will say one of the big downsides on that is just the major weird like stinginess on loot. Like why have so much RNG on this kind of stuff? Like there's a cap on the amount of keys that you can hold, when I feel like you should be able to just have as many as you want, hold on to them, and just turn them all in, just doing the expunge missions like continuously instead of only having 5. Technically you can get more if you put them in your postmaster in a way, but regardless, though, you're playing RNG on either it's going to be a weapon or an armor piece, and you're playing RNG on the specific weapon, the specific armor piece, and then the rolls, like the weapon rolls and stuff. So it's like the same problem that Iron Banner's running into, where you don't have much choice, you're just playing a slot machine entirely, and that becomes very problematic, which is really funny that I'm saying that when I got a God Roll Ignition code, and a lot of you were like, oh my god, Chibi, you lucky, when I was like, wow, that's a good roll, and when it was the God Roll, and I got that basically first try with the key, I believe, so yeah, people were really upset with me with that one. So it's very ironic that I'm like, oh, they're stingy on loot when I had that happen. But I just miss the way of getting double perks on these event weapons being more tied to like how it was with the recaster with season arrivals instead of what it is now. I don't know. That's just my take on it. But I did like the expunge missions. I thought that was cool. Korea, that was something that was very interesting as well. I liked that part a lot. But the one thing that's disappointing is that they didn't turn it into a strike. I think that that's one thing that they really should start emphasizing when the seasons go forward, is trying to make content that sticks with the game forever, other than just like the override staying for a year. Something that will stay even past the year when they do new seasons. What do I mean by this is like themes to the season tied to a strike, a Crucible map, a Gambit map, like those kind of things. It would have been really nice if Korea was built from the ground up as a strike rather than the expunge mission, because that'd been something to add to the strike playlist, because it's still kind of bare, because we lost a lot of stuff, and that's the one thing that really sucks, is we lost a lot of content, and we're kind of getting little crumbs back into those playlists, which is, again, very disappointing. That was the one thing that I was shocked on. I thought Korea was going to be a surprise strike event, kind of like what they were doing with Season of Chosen, where there was a strike that was tied to the story in the end. That's what I thought Korea was going to be, but it didn't happen, so that's the one main disappointment with that one. Vaulted Glass was where I was mainly shocked about this season. I know that it's a Destiny 1 raid, so it doesn't really count on new content, but still, it was something on another like level to the season to feel like there's stuff to do. And that's where like this season did a lot better as a mid-season compared to the others, getting Vaulted Glass to come back. And I thought it was really cool how they did some of the changes with the mechanics. I think that was okay, pretty welcoming. But the only downside that I have to say, which I've talked about it in an extensive video about Master Vogue, is I'm kind of disappointed on Master Vogue. I feel like it's way too difficult compared to the reward value that you're getting. One of the things that I'm getting really kind of fatigued on is adepts just being the better version of the weapon that you got already, but you have to wait till like 2 months later to then grind for the adepts. So, like, that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people even say, that, like, with Grandmasters, when they're like, oh, Hung Jury is dropping, but it's the regular one because Grandmasters are not going through. It's just like, okay, I'm going to grind for the Hung Jury, but then I'm going to have to regrind again to try and get the Adept one in the roles that I want. Like, it's just a never-ending loop of a grind. Oh, no, it's a never-ending grind and a looter shooter. Like, I'm not really completely complaining about that, but it would have been nice to have, like, Grandmasters just be something right off the get-go. I think that power leveling per season is getting really tedious. I think that, like, there shouldn't be a huge grind to get ready for the next Grandmaster again and stuff like that. I think that one of the good things that I liked about Vaulted Glass, at least the normal version, was there was no grind. As long as you were 1300, you were good to go to do the contest mode, to do the raid itself, whatever. That was great. I did like that, and I think that that's something they should take note on, because there was a lot of people who actually contributed with that raid, that world's first contest mode Vault of Glass, like that raid, compared to any of the other ones, because there was no grind. Like, you didn't have to do all this numbers to your armor and stuff. Oh, I got a thing that can bring up my power level a +1. Like, there was none of that you had to deal with, which was great. But yeah, Vault of Glass was very, very welcoming. I think that the overall with the season was relatively good, but again, the areas that are disappointing is that there's a lack of focus on the ritual activities, which was very weird, because I could have swore that they said that, like Luke Smith said a while back, that the new seasonal format would be more focused on the ritual activities, when, I mean, yeah, I guess you can count that with Season of the Chosen with getting 1 strike, but what about Gambit and Crucible? Like, how come they didn't get anything through these seasons at all? Like, I again, it would have been very cool if they would do that for the seasons where they tie the Strike, Crucible map, and Gambit map to be at the theme of whatever the theme is of the season, like Cabal themed for Season of the Chosen. Season of the Hunt would be tied to the Hive stuff and whatever, and then Season of Splicer is the Vex network. It'd just be really cool, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, I would say overall, the stuff that we did get with this season was pretty good. Like, that's the only real negatives that I would mainly say. Like, I know that I probably am missing some other things that I could, like, say about it, but I just kind of liked what they did. I do enjoy Override. I just think that Override is a little bit, like, its focus is more on an area that we've already seen, which is a patrol area, and then you go in the Vex network, when I think that it should have been just fully the Vex network, like how the Expunge is, where you're just right away in the Vex network, in that environment, and doing the activity in there. That's why I like Sundial so much, because it was, you right away, different environment in this activity, and you just spin around the sundial, and it was, I don't know, I really like that one. But other than that, I think that this season did pretty well. I'm really excited to see what next season's going to be, because, I mean, if it's like Season Rivals, where it's big, a lot bigger than the other 2 seasons, oh boy, am I excited. But I'm trying not to go overhype myself, because then I'll be disappointed if it's not like that. But regardless, though, that's my thoughts on Season of the Splicer. Again, I want to know your thoughts. What did you like? What did you dislike? What are things that you agree with what I'm saying? What are things that you disagree with what I'm saying? Like, I want to know. Explain. Talk. But regardless, though, thank you so much for listening. You have a Chibi-tastic day, night, evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next Chibi video. Chibi out.